welcome to the Ohio VolleyTalk podcast. I'm Nicholas Glenn here with Tyler Bush, and today we are joined by special guest, the Moeller coach, Coach Casey Pieper.
Howdy.
So, Coach, I mean, like you were just saying before, you guys have had a pretty packed week, pretty eventful week. Obviously, that big GCL showdown against St. X that went that 5-set thriller, and then the next day, the Centerville tournament. What are some takeaways that you have just from those 2 days of play?
Well, we're really excited for what we saw. Obviously, beating X in 5 is a huge accomplishment for the guys. It's one of the things that they were really excited about getting the chance to do this year. X has had our number for a number of years now, and so they really wanted to show that they could beat that team, which was nice to see. And then going into Centerville Elite, it's a tough day to do that right after a 5-set match. It definitely showed on our end that there's some stuff as coaches we can help them with to get some conditioning and some situational drills that would definitely help our team out. But would love to see the fight from the guys, and it was just a good weekend overall.
And you guys have started off, in general, pretty good this season, more than pretty good, really. What do you think has allowed you guys to start so well?
Well, we've got a really great group of guys. I mean, 12 seniors who really know how to play. Those guys put in a whole lot of effort, and a junior class that's in there to supplement where they can, and then one sophomore who's very athletic and can help us out. So that's a great start to just have that strong start. And now it's just trying to fine tune them and get them to get those little things taken care of so that we can win all weekend instead of just the first couple.
And you said you got 12 seniors, obviously. That's a crazy amount for any school at a graduating class. Can you kind of speak to their development over the last few years that you've seen and how they've progressed as a class?
Yeah, it's fun because this is the last group that I had as freshman when I was the freshman coach before coming in. So I was actually talking about it with one of my JV coaches over the weekend, how the coaching philosophy is very different from the freshman to the varsity level. And you kind of have to walk them through here as their freshmen, but they've grown. They're so good at being players and being knowledgeable. It's just trying to teach them the situational awareness and then also how to run it themselves, right? They're almost adults and going to be in college, and some of them are trying to play or going to play, and some of them will just go to club, and they won't always have that coach around to kind of help them with that. So my goal is trying to teach them to run it themselves and hope that when that time comes, they can make those changes, and that I'm just there to kind of manage bodies and making sure the right people are out there and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like just to go a little more in depth with what you're saying there, one guy that really comes to my mind is your libero Tyler Wong, been 4-year varsity player, now senior this year. Just like how has his impact, along with some of the other seniors' impact, like what specifically have they done to really like lead the underclassmen who might still be getting used to playing at the varsity level and playing as much volleyball as you guys have been playing?
Well, Tyler's great. I mean, he covers a whole lot of ground and gets a lot of touches. So having him as an example is really great for a lot of the younger guys. I got to say, this year, Nick Dollard has been just incredible, leading the group. I think he's been making some great strides on decision making, and this weekend he was a true Iron Man. He hit the floor so many times against X and then played through it all weekend. I mean, he's done awesome. Elvis Arve has done a great job of leading the group. He's always the first one to talk and bring the guys together. I mean, incredible amount of senior leadership with those guys. Adam Quell has stepped up because we had to move him to middle. I mean, the list can go on and on. Carson Narup has been incredible. his move to a defensive specialist role for us and his playing his hardest. I mean, I could talk about every guy and how they're doing it. And it's just all in different ways, which has been a great thing to have. Again, it's the other problem with that is they're really incredible dudes. And so they all have strong personalities. And it's like, okay, let me kind of manage some of those other pieces. You guys play. And that's the big thing that I think we're still figuring out is them trusting us to put the right guys in at the right times and then to just make the plays when they need to.
At the start, you kind of mentioned how X has had your number for a few years. In general, it's been a few years since you guys have topped the GCL. It's been going back and forth between X and Elder. Is that GCL championship that sole outright claim to it one of your goals right now, especially with the 3-0 lead in GCL play so far?
It's not something we've truly talked about. The guys always their goal is always a state championship, right? And so our philosophy has just been trying to get them to play every game and just focus on that next step. Because again, when you have that goal, you have to break it down to little steps. You can't just win your goal and be done with it. So taking it one game at a time is definitely the most important part. Having that though is good because the GCL is a very strong group, and being able to be outright on top right now is incredible. Even though we did just drop one to both Elder and X, I guess it doesn't technically count at the Centerville Elite tournament, but it's a tough thing to do to play in that conference and come out on top. So having that lead just signifies that these guys have been putting in a lot of work and that it's working. And so we just have to continue that through the rest of the year.
Yeah, and going back to what you just said about maybe not performing the way you wanted to at the Centerville Elite tournament, like how does a tournament like that, like how do you kind of like respond to that, and like what do you kind of say to your guys after something like that?
That's a tough one, right? Because we played, what was it? Something like 15 sets. I think X was somewhere around 18 or 19 sets, and that's all in 24 hours. And so it's something that they're not going to have to do, right? The tournament now being one game on Friday and Saturday for the state championship, whereas when I was in high school, it was one on Friday or Saturday, two on Sunday. You don't have that challenge as much anymore. So really, it's an example of the mental toughness that the guys have. It's all right. How can we keep performing when we're tired, and what can we put out? And so for us, it's really just trying to learn a little bit about themselves in that. But for me, I'm just telling them, hey, it was a tough weekend. We had some really bright spots, but we can't have 44 errors against Elder in 3 sets. That's a mental toughness thing. And so that's a good reflection point for them to say, all right, how did I feel in that moment? What was going on? And how can I adjust in the future when I feel that again?
And then what do you feel like? Obviously, you said that those 44 errors over 3 sets, not a great number, but how do you feel? What do you feel like your keys to success are throughout the season, just on a game by game basis?
Well, what we found is our guys really love to have positive energy. I mean, obviously everybody does, but like over the top. And so those first 2 sets against X on Friday, I mean, they were electric. And then we hit the roller coaster down and we went 25-13 in the third set, and it was pretty bad. And so trying to find that energy was something that we really needed to do. So working on just being present and having energy, but not overusing it so you don't peter out in those important moments is something that we need to figure out how to do. Because that is exactly it. We played a good one against X and had that high, came into Centerville and played well there, and then Elder just everything tanked, and that's what can happen when you don't have energy and you guys are tired and you make a lot of errors.
Yeah, do you think that kind of Like you just said, like you kind of lost a little bit of energy against St. X on Friday. Do you think some of that may have carried over into Centerville, or do you think that's more of just like a different kind of scenario, different
It's the
circumstance
same.
rather?
It's the same. It's both. I mean, obviously, you have that, like I said, you have that high, and you go into that. Part of it is just the team. Elder is an incredible team, and we were fortunate enough to win that first matchup, and it was the same thing. We were making a lot of errors. I think in that one, the first set we had 17 errors against Elder, and that's just something you can't have. And then they figured it out and found some energy, and I think that maybe in if we had played them in that game and not had the five setter against X the night before, maybe they would have found the energy because we were pretty close, I think, in the third. But again, it's something that that was the situation, and our guys didn't quite step up to the plate. So it's something that we're going to have to figure out. Maybe get a little more conditioning at the beginning of practice instead of playing at the end. Maybe play in the beginning and then have them do some of those walkthrough drills and some of that skill work so that they're tired and kind of work through it. Then is something that we're thinking about. But it definitely gives us some drive and a direction to go here for the last half of the season.
Yeah, and going into that last half of the season, do you have like a specific message that you're really telling the guys maybe every day at practice? I know when we talked to the Loveland coach last week, he did. And is there something you have that motivates your guys on a daily practice basis?
Um, I mean, my guys, there's 20 of them. It's hard to say one message that
Yeah.
resonates with everyone. Our goal is always just trying to get them to be a little bit better each day, right? We do a lot of individual work. We have the space to separate them out and let those guys to do their stuff and get better. So it's just trying to get a little bit better each day. We're getting to that point of the year where nothing I'm going to teach them is going to stick, and so it's just polishing off everything else so that they're ready for the state tournament. So just trying to get a couple more things taken care of. Blocking is a huge key for us. When our guys are blocking, everything else goes really well. And so trying to get them in that mindset of putting up a good space and allowing our defense to do what it does to get on offense is huge. But just try to be your best each day. And I'm not, I don't care if you don't have it because you're not going to have it every day, but the effort is what we really want. If you're putting in the effort, then I'm going to have no complaints from them.
All right. Well, I think that's all we had for you today. Is there anything else that you maybe want our audience to know, or just any other shout outs you want to give out before we conclude?
No, I appreciate what you guys have been doing and helping continue to grow the game. Volleyball here has been awesome. I give a shout out to my coaches who keep helping me out and dealing with it. I know we had a long weekend, so appreciate them there and appreciate everybody in the program as well. We come back to help the boys have a good experience, and this group has been incredible. And I've been very fortunate with them and their families, and so thank them for that, and thank you guys for doing what you've been doing.
Thank you for coming on today, Coach.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Thank you, and I wish you the best of luck
Yeah, good
for the
luck.
rest of the season.
Thank you.
All right. After talking to Coach, we're going to talk about some games that happened this week because there was a lot. There was a lot to cover, especially on Saturday after Centerville and just a lot of other games in general. Nick, what stuck out to you over the weekend?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna jump straight to Centerville. Like the first thing that caught my mind was the Bombers beating Ignatius, which this was honestly a big shock to me. The Bombers off to a pretty slow start this year, and Ignatius off to a pretty strong start this year, but the Bombers are able to take it in five.
Yeah, that one, jumped out to me. The same reason. Didn't really see it coming, especially after X. We heard from Coach Pieper that X had just played five sets against Moeller the night before and lost. Then they were able to take it to another five setter against Ignatius, who hadn't played in like 3 days at that point, and come away with the win. And that they fought for them. They were tough set wins. It was pretty close, but just a solid performance. Joe Taggart really dragging them along that game. But I mean, after that, it felt like a pretty one-sided tournament. Uh, Worthington, Thomas Worthington, kind of dog walked their way to the final. They dropped a set against St. X, and then Elder didn't drop a set. It's been a few days. It's been more than a week since they've dropped a set in general. They dog walked Darby, then Moeller, and then in the final against Worthington, they didn't have a crazy amount of trouble. 3-0. Only one of those sets went to extra points. So they kind of seem like the dominant force right now because it's not like they had any more rest than usual. They played LaSalle the night before, and LaSalle might be a D2 team, but it's still a GCL team, so that's never easy. They kind of came in there and just showed everyone who was the boss right now.
Yeah. I mean, Elder, we've seen they've shown that they can be a really good team, but this weekend they really showed not dropping a set and they're playing against some really good teams, and Darby, who's been playing very well recently, Moeller, who's been playing well all season, beat them earlier in the season. But then Elder kind of gets their revenge this weekend, and then, like you said, with Worthington, they've also had a very strong season and a really good tournament up until this game when Elder kind of won it with ease.
Yeah, I mean, they it's gonna be a second before it seems like anyone can maybe challenge them. They've only got two losses on the season, right? One of them is to Louisville St. X, first game of the season, out of state opponent, doesn't really matter. And then they lost in five on the reverse sweep to Moeller, and once again the first week of play. So they don't have an easy schedule ahead of them. These next five games are going to be rough. Moeller, McNick, and Jerome the day after Moeller. Then Lakota East, who's having a great season so far, and then St. X just a few days after. It's going to be a tough five stretch. I wouldn't be surprised if they drop something in that just because of the difficulty of it. But they're playing like a great team right now.
Yeah, and just being a part of the GCL South, it comes with very tough schedules like that, and especially this 5 game slate that they're about to go on. But if anyone's going to be up for it, especially after this tournament, I think Coach Tierney and Elder will definitely have his guys ready for this tough slate coming up.
Yeah, another thing that jumped out to me on Saturday was St. Charles. They came in and they swept LaSalle and McNick in the same day. Two top teams in D2. McNick obviously back-to-back state champs. They don't have the same core that they did before, but they've still shown that they can really fight for some wins, some tough matches. And then LaSalle has done the same. They've got a great group of guys, and Charles came in and they swept both of them.
Yeah, and we've kind of been talking about this all year. Like, even though St. Charles' record may not look like the best, they're always playing some tough competition. And this time around, they really took care of business against a tough LaSalle team, and like you said, two-time defending state championship McNick team, who is on the rise, who started off a little slow, but has really been playing well. And St. Charles really just played really well against both of them.
Yeah, that's six in a row now for Charles. And the last time St. Charles lost was in five sets to McNick. So they kind of got their get back for that one. And they've got a pretty favorable schedule ahead of them right now. Bishop Watterson, St. Francis de Sales, Hartley, Watterson. It's when they see Bishop Fenwick next month, I think that's going to be certainly a good game, something to watch out for. But they're really proving themselves. And LaSalle, they've got a tough one. It'll be happening when we release the episode, pretty much against Fenwick. That'll be a good measuring stick to see how well they recover. But yeah, just a big weekend in D2 as well to really separate the top dogs. Loveland got swept by Lakota East earlier as well, but an out of division opponent against a great Lakota East team. Um, I think that Loveland is still clearly the top dog, but that second place spot right now is kind of up for grabs.
Yeah, I mean, we had the Loveland coach on here a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about just praising his team and just kind of the ability of guys just like stepping up. And when you play a tough team like Lakota East this year, who's having a really good season, I think that's definitely going to be a tough. It was a tough matchup for them, and unfortunately, they got swept. But it's all about how you bounce back, and I think Loveland is definitely going to bounce back from that. And then Lakota East getting a statement win over a big D2 school like that, I think that'll definitely uh, rejuvenate the team a little bit.
Yeah, Loveland definitely got a favorable schedule until they hit Elder at the start of May. They did bounce back right away with a 3-0 win against Milford, and when we talked to their coach, he said that was pretty important for him because he played there, and the guys know that he wanted to get a win over them. But Anderson, Lebanon, they've got a lot of ECC teams, and they should be able to really clear their way through that and fight for that conference championship. But I think the last stuff that really jumped out to me, Nick, was the week that Berlin had. It was up and down. Started with a 5-set loss to Jerome. Jerome, very talented team. They still only got the one loss on the season and 5 sets to Darby. But after that, Berlin came in, had a great Saturday. They didn't drop a set in 4 matches after that. Jerome won. But they, despite that, it's still kind of, they played Hudson. And other than that, it's been since we saw them play Darby that they've had a great win, really. They started out the season pretty solidly, but since then, I think that it's going to be their back half of the season when they have Darby, Hudson, Worthington, and Jerome. That's really going to determine how good of a team they truly are.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that 5-set loss to Jerome earlier in the week, that's definitely a heartbreaker. But then, like you said, to kind of bounce back at the weekend and put up a good performance in the Centerville tournament is definitely a good way to respond from that. And definitely not only for Berlin, but for most of these teams, the back half of the season is going to be very important to kind of separate who is really a favorite and who could really compete for the state title.
Yeah, because I mean, I think that the biggest takeaway we got from this weekend was that on any given day, anyone can beat anyone. We saw a lot of favorites drop, like Ignatius losing to X, and we saw a lot of surprising results. Like I don't know if many people thought that Elder was going to come in and win, let alone not drop an entire set. Um, so this is going to be a very interesting back half to the season, to me at least. And this week isn't going to necessarily have the same big time matchups throughout the entire week. Obviously, there's going to be an Elder Moeller matchup, the Jerome Worthington matchup, but it's just going to be a very interesting back half of the season. We're still seeing some out of city opponents, like something I'm seeing on Saturday. Jerome Elder, that'll be a good one. Um, but it really seems like it's anyone's game right now, especially in Division One. But I think that there's still a whole lot of wide openness in D2 as well.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, the back half of the season is going to be very important for a lot of these teams, and the rankings for this week are going to look a lot different because of the tournament. And I think they're definitely going to keep changing after these games. Just a bunch of powerhouses playing each other. I think it'll definitely switch up some things a little bit, and I'm excited to see what happens with those.
Yeah, I am as well. Can't stress it enough, but this is going to be a big few weeks to determine who's feels like they're on top. Conference races heating up as well. But I think that's all we had for this week. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll be back next week.